Hi, welcome to working with positive and negative fractions. Let's take a look at these first two fractions and talk about the rules. First of all, this first fraction, 6/7, is negative, and the second fraction is -2. So I like to think about it like this, without the parentheses, because this one's negative, and without the plus sign. So this fraction is negative, and this fraction is really negative. So they're both the same sign. So that's going to put me in this rule right here that says if they're the same sign, you're going to take the sum, which is add, and you're going to keep the same sign. So we're actually going to add these two fractions, and the answer is going to be negative because it says that we're going to keep the same sign. Well, let's look at this one. 5/6 is positive, and here's a plus sign, but this fraction is really negative. So I like to think about it like this. And take the parentheses away and the plus sign. So we have a positive and a negative. These are different signs, so that puts us with a different signs rule. If they're different, you're going to find the difference, which is subtract, and keep the sign of the bigger number. Let's go ahead and take a look at this one first. So we have 5/6 minus 2/3. Okay, I'm going to erase that. It's really helpful to work with your fractions vertically rather than horizontally. They have to have the same denominator, so I'm going to quickly fix that. Multiply times 2, so I have to multiply times 2 there. This is the same, so it just comes over. And again, I said we were going to subtract, and we get 1/6. And the number on top, the 5/6, was positive. It was the biggest. And so my answer is positive. Let's take a look at the one that we have listed above. This one says 6/7 and 16/21. And again, they're both negative. So I know that I'm going to add them, and my answer is going to be negative. We're going to change both denominators to 21. This one's already 21. Multiply times 3. And I get 18. And again, we're not subtracting, we're adding because they're the same sign. 8 and 6 is 14. Carry my 1. That's going to be 34 over 21, and it's negative. 21 goes into 34 one time. And if I subtract, I have 13 left over. And my answer would be 1 and 13/21. Let's try another one. Alright, let's take a look at this one. There's a trick that you can use to make this a lot easier. If you think about both of these numbers as positive, the absolute value of both of these numbers, the 6 and the 8, you don't even need to look at the fractions right now. 8 is the bigger number. So when you work with positive and negative fractions, put the bigger number on top. Think about the absolute value. So I'm going to put my -8 and 7/16 on top, and then my 6 and 3/8 underneath. Now, this one's negative, this one's positive. They're different signs, so we're going to subtract. I know that my answer is going to be negative because when I subtract, I keep the sign of the bigger number. So I'm going to go on ahead and write that, and then I'm going to remember that I'm subtracting. I have to come up with a common denominator. Okay, that would be 6, and again I'm subtracting, and then I'm going to get 2. Let's try another one. This time, let's switch these two fractions, 7/16 and 3/8. Okay, I've switched the fractions, but again, we're going to put the bigger number on top, and it's negative, and the smaller number on bottom. They're different signs, so I'm going to subtract. I know my answer is going to be negative. I'm going to find common denominators. It's times 2, and I've got 6. Now I have 6 on top in my numerator and 7 on the bottom. So I'm not going to subtract that. I'm going to borrow. That's going to become -7. And then I'm going to borrow 1, which is 16/16, and I'm going to add to this top fraction that didn't have enough. That gives me 22/16. I'm going to slide this over so it's easier for me to subtract. 22 minus 7 is 15/16. And then 7 minus 6 is 1. So the answer on this one is -1 and 15/16. So you can still use the borrowing that you learned from 5th and 6th grade. You can still use that same method. And just remember, all you have to do is put the bigger fraction on top. Let's take a look at another one. All right, so the first thing we have to do is we have to decide, are they positive or negative? Well, this one's positive, that's obvious. And a minus minus always makes a plus. So let's rewrite that with the plus. A minus minus makes a plus. So now they're both positive. So you would actually add these two fractions. And I'm not going to do that. I think that you can figure out how to do that, but I want you to see the minus minus. Now let's say that I changed to this, and now we have a negative and a positive. All right, they're different signs, so we are going to subtract. And then remember what I said, that it's very important to put the largest number on top. So I'm going to put my 2 5/9 on top and my 1 1/2 on bottom. I'm going to come up with a common denominator, and that's times 9, and that's times 2. Okay, and I'm doing all right because in my numerator, I have enough on top in the top fraction to subtract this bottom one. And that gives me 1/18. I don't have to borrow. Come over here. And then the sign of my larger number was negative. So my answer is -1 and 1/18. Thanks a lot for visiting my video, and check out my others online.